and welcome. The commencement ceremony for the Department of Political Science and the programs of Civic Studies and Peace and Justice Studies of the School of Arts and Sciences will now be in order. Please join me in recognizing the faculty members in attendance today. Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences, Jim Glazer. Dean of the Tisch College of Civic Life, Alan Solomon. Associate Dean of Academic Affairs of the Tisch College and the Lincoln Filene Professor of Citizenship and Public Affairs, Peter Levine. And Professor of Political Science, Pearl Robinson. And I'm Debbie Schulkraut, the Chair of the Political Science Department. Thank you. And I'm so pleased that we are joined today by Alan Solomon, Dean of the Tisch College of Civic Life, who's retiring at the end of this semester. And so I'd like to thank you, Alan, for everything you've done for Tufts, for your many years of partnership with the Political Science Department. I know you won't be a stranger, but we are going to miss you, and I wish you a most wonderful retirement. Thank you. And before I address the candidates for graduation, I'd like to take a moment to thank everyone in staff and facilities who worked so hard to make sure that everything today goes smoothly. These ceremonies are unprecedented, and everyone involved has gone above and beyond to make this happen. And I'd especially like to thank Joanne Jack. So thank you, everyone. I also want to thank your friends and families who have supported you and who will continue to support you as you navigate these strange times and as you figure out your way in the coming years. I'd also like to thank each of you to take a moment. I'd like to ask each of you to take a moment to reflect upon and appreciate the many people throughout history who had to break some molds and cause some good trouble so that many of us, including me, could be where we are today. We all stand on the shoulders of brave people who were turned away from pursuing their dreams and who fought to make our world more just and inclusive. And I'd like to ask each of you to commit to lifting others with you as you climb the ladders that others have built for you. Now, when I meet strangers and they ask what I do, and I tell them I study and teach American politics, their reaction is always the same. This is such an interesting time to do that. I first noticed how common this response was when I was working on my dissertation back in 1998 during the impeachment of President Clinton, which was very interesting. But what's fascinating is that I get that comment no matter what's going on in the world. And when I get that comment, I give the same answer. I say, it's always an interesting time to be studying politics. And it is. Over the course of my career, just some of the domestic and international events that have led people to tell me that what I do is interesting include the 2000 election that went all the way to the Supreme Court with Bush v. Gore, the attacks on 9/11 and the wars that followed, Hurricane Katrina, the economic collapse of 2007, the election of Barack Obama, the election of Donald Trump, the impeachments of Donald Trump, nationwide Black Lives Matter protests against police brutality and structural racism, and of course, the insurrection on January 6th. Despite my own recognition that studying politics is always interesting and always important, even I have to admit that studying it now feels particularly important and particularly interesting. Now, college professors often lament how much students forget from their time in our classes. Never mind after they graduate. I'm talking about from one semester to the next. I'm sure many of you have had the experience of taking more than one class with the same professor and feel the fear when they call on you and ask you to remember something and share with the class something from a prior semester. And that's okay, though, because the most important things you learn in our classes are not factual details like which party controlled the US House when Clinton was impeached, or which book is the one where Montesquieu develops an argument about how legislatures should be constructed, or how many political parties there are in Germany. What's most important are the skills. How to unpack and develop a philosophical argument, how to collect, analyze, and present data, how to imagine perspectives and experiences different from your own, how to engage in civil, evidence-based discussions on issues that critically affect people's lives. From what I've seen of you, you've developed those skills beautifully, and I'm confident you'll carry them with you. Use them in the work that you do after Tufts and inspire others to do the same. I speak on behalf of all the political science faculty and civic studies and peace and justice studies when I say that we have been honored to have been in a place to help you make sense of our turbulent times with rigor and perspective. And we're grateful to you because, let's be honest, there have been moments over the past few years where we ourselves have needed a little help to place what's going on in perspective. Our conversations with you in and out of the classroom have mattered so much to us. We brainstorm together to find patterns, exceptions, possible solutions to the great challenges that people across the world face. So thank you. After taking our courses, you might think that political scientists are a pessimistic bunch. After all, we study violence and conflict and the absolute worst of human nature. But many, if not all of us, are also driven by optimism, not an optimism about some inherent goodness in humankind, but an optimism grounded in the belief that only by understanding the worst of human nature can we strive to develop political institutions that work with us as we are. Then we can use those institutions to try to minimize the harm that people do to one another. And maybe, just possibly, we can design political processes that bring out our better selves. Simply hoping that we'll all be peaceful, tolerant, enlightened, and just will only go so far. It takes hard work to craft a context that makes such outcomes possible. When we study political science, civic studies, and peace and justice, we are often driven by an optimism that such contexts can be found. I know that many of you feel the same way, so we now charge you, our candidates for graduation, to help us find them. Congratulations to all of you. And now it gives me great pleasure to present the department's Elliott Award. The James Vance Elliott Award is awarded to the senior year students majoring in political science whose achievements best combine academic excellence with active participation and effective leadership in campus and civic affairs. The award recognizes the distinguished career of former chair and professor of political science, James Vance Elliott. By unanimous vote of the faculty, this year's winner is Tice Sweeney. Tice, are you here? You can stand up. Thank you. Tice doesn't just have a high GPA. According to his advisors, he's writing an excellent senior thesis on the Americanization of Hegel in the development and decline of 20th century progressive liberalism. He served as an executive opinion editor, graphics editor, and associate editor on the managing board of the Tufts Daily. He's also the co-founder of the disability rights group Access Coalition and served as its vice president for a year. Congratulations, Tice. The department also gives out the Peter Belfer Award, which is given annually for the outstanding piece of written work done in a political science course or independently by a political science major. This award was established in 1973 by Mrs. Ann Belfer Goldstein in memory of her late husband, Peter Belfer, class of '67. We do not yet have winners for the Belfer Award, which we give out for a class paper and for a senior thesis because those are still being written. But please stay tuned for our department newsletter where we will announce those winners when they're ready. And as you know, this event is being recorded so that friends and families can watch it and that it will be streamed on Commencement Sunday. Because we're recording it this early, Latin honors have not yet been determined. So students receiving Latin or thesis honors will be recognized in the final commencement video. Now, please help me welcome Dean Glazer to the podium.
Thank you, Professor Schildkraut. Welcome, class of 2021, families and friends. Since events like this are happy moments, I thought I would talk briefly about happiness and what we as scholars and social scientists know about happiness. It's worth thinking about happiness at this special transition moment, this moment just before you venture out into the world. Happiness can be measured and measured easily. Psychologists who study it have very direct measures because people can actually tell you if they're happy or not. It's not something that social scientists have to probe too deeply to find the underlying construct. Studies generally ask people, are you happy? And a yes answer correlates with all kinds of things that you would expect it to. Studies also show that being in the happiest group, as opposed to the unhappiest group, can add 9 years to your lives, all else the same. That's very significant, particularly when you compare that to the 4.5 years that you can add onto your life by quitting cigarettes. Let me start with an obvious question. Does money buy happiness? Interestingly enough, happiness is not highly correlated with affluence. What we know is that having money does allow people momentary happiness, but that happiness tends to wear off. And there is a danger of measuring happiness by comparing oneself to others and comparing what one has with what others have. Unless you're Bill Gates, there's always someone who makes more or has more. So the constant comparing of oneself to others is not a good strategy for happiness. Some activities lead to greater happiness, others to less happiness. Studies show that the least happy experience is commuting. And interestingly enough, commuting to work generates more unhappiness than commuting from work. I don't know what the studies will say about working from home during the pandemic. That will be interesting, and I'll look for it. Working does not inspire happiness in everybody, but it does depend upon the kind of work that you do and whether you find it challenging, fulfilling, and autonomous. So it's important to find the right career, given how much time you will devote to work. And there can be great satisfaction and indeed happiness in work. What activities do people report making them happy? Eating, relaxing, socializing, exercising, worshiping, and intimate relations. That actually is the number one answer. I think the bottom line is that those who lead balanced lives of work and family, home and leisure, tend to be happier than those who don't. Family and children also make people happy, all else the same. This one actually rings true to me. I am a father, and the pleasure I have received from my children has been enormous, and I'm sure your folks will agree. A great deal of happiness is associated with intellectual life. Graduates, what you did here at Tufts was not just a means to an end. Hopefully, your Tufts education has given you the foundation to learn over your lifespan, to travel and experience other cultures, to understand the social and political world, to engage with and even argue about important ideas. So keep on learning, keep on growing, keep on reading, and not just on the internet. Finally, happiness comes from belonging to something bigger than yourself. The late David Halberstam said this at a Tufts commencement address some years ago. I don't remember what else he said, but that pearl of wisdom struck with me. And social scientists show that he's right. For some, it's a connection to faith. For others, it's a connection to an organization or an institution. Tufts has been a very important part of my life, and I have gotten great satisfaction from seeing it grow and thrive, and I've been lucky enough to participate in its growth and its success. I wish you a life of great happiness, a life of short commutes, intellectual stimulation, professional success, warm family, personal fulfillment, good books, and a balanced existence. And I encourage you to use your Tufts degree to bring happiness to others. Class of 2021, be well, stay in touch, and congratulations.
Thanks, Jim, and thanks to the class of 2021 for giving me the opportunity to be part of this auspicious and happy day. And welcome to these celebrations. Before saying anything else, I'd like to join my friend and department chair, Professor Debbie Schildkraut, in very sincerely thanking the ANS staff and facilities workers who have done so much to make this day succeed. It has been an incredibly challenging time, and they've done amazing work, of course, not just today, but throughout the pandemic and indeed throughout your years at Tufts. So maybe we can take a moment to applaud them again. I also join Debbie Schildkraut in acknowledging our colleagues who are here in this side of the room. It's fitting that the deans of both Arts and Sciences and Tisch College, Jim Glazer and Alan Solomons, are present today because Civic Studies is a partnership between those two schools, and both of those individuals, both of those people have championed Civic Studies. And actually, both of them have championed political science at Tufts. As Alan's close colleague and friend, I especially want to recognize him today. As Alan often says, he first set foot on the Tufts campus quite a long time ago, and he's played many essential roles in our community for half a century. Most recently, of course, by dramatically expanding and strengthening Tisch College as our dean. So, Alan, we will miss you, but we will not leave you alone. We will not let you off the hook. Your service will continue. The mission continues, as they say. I also want to recognize Professor Pearl Robinson, an honored colleague in political science, a prize-winning and prolific scholar. Plus, Professor Robinson recently won the Seymour Simches Award for teaching and advising at Tufts. And I can personally testify to her long-standing and deep involvement with generations of peace and justice studies students and with civic studies. Thank you, Pearl. I'm standing today before you in a robe of red, and one might even say that the hue of this particular robe was crimson, which is a little uncomfortable for me and ironic, since the only institutions I've ever studied at and even worked for have had blue as their major color, or at least one of their major colors, and never had anything to do with a university of this color. But as I reflected on it, I started to decide that I actually like the symbolism of this robe, and by the way, no hat either. Because of course it's borrowed. I didn't realize that there was going to be an opportunity for a face-to-face commencement until too late to rent. And so it's borrowed from a friend and a colleague. And I started to think that's actually quite appropriate. So I'm not impersonating the graduate of a different college. I'm doing something appropriate for this day. First of all, during the pandemic, what have we all experienced? I would say improvisation, just finding ways to get these things done. And secondly, friendship and mutual support. So it's very fitting that I should be wearing my colleague's robe instead of my own. And thirdly, a kind of turn to essentials, because ultimately these academic gowns that we wear are pretty silly, and the colors and stripes and things are pretty silly. But if you do get down to the essential, they are ways of doing what's actually important, which is coming together as a community, supporting each other, and celebrating moments of transition. So I feel in a way that this is the best robe for me to be wearing for you in that way. I'm proud to be a member of the political science department, and the majority, quite a large majority of you are political science graduates, but my role here today is really as the program director of civic studies. 14 members of the class of 2021 are graduating with majors or minors in civic studies or peace and justice studies, which we continue to support. And of course, many of the political science students graduates in this room have taken civic studies courses, and I recognize you from that. To me, civic studies still feels like a bit of a startup. Most of you graduating seniors were already at Tufts when the faculty voted to approve it. You could not take the intro course your first year because it didn't exist yet. So I'm grateful for your flexibility and your resilience as pioneers in this new major. Everything you experienced was new and definitely still under construction, still under development. The second and third iterations of our core courses have all been better than the first try, thanks to your input and inspiration. The major is growing nicely. I think your class offers a bumper crop of graduates. We don't actually have civic studies prizes so far. Now I realize we need to get them. But I would like to mention two civic studies seniors, Olivia Roskill and Rachel Tots, both of whom won the sociology department prize for work that reflects very strong themes of civic studies. Although civic studies started as a major during your time here at Tufts, in many ways it's been years in the making, It reflects a robust international conversation about the need to change intellectual life. We argue that the essential question that confronts a good person as a member of community, which is what Jim Glazer said makes you happy. So the essential question that confronts a good person as a member of community is, what should we do? That question tends to slip through the cracks in academia. It's not quite addressed by the social sciences, which usually ask, what is happening and why is it happening? Philosophy more often asks, what is right for me to do as an individual, or what constitutes justice for society as a whole? Some powerful works of art address the question, what should we do? But that's not been a major theme in the study of literature and art. So there's a gap, and the gap has consequences. It means that schools and colleges don't do enough to teach people how to form, join, and improve groups, and use groups to improve the world. To some extent, of course, we learn these skills from experience, but the academic curriculum doesn't help us much. The gap also means that actual groups in the world do not benefit as much as they could from research and scholarship. Well, many people are involved with developing civic studies, not just at Tufts, but around the world. They do many kinds of work, from editing a journal to planning conferences. But some of the leading work has actually taken place in Tufts classrooms with our majors and many other students who've taken civic studies courses. I have read some of the texts assigned in the Intro to Civic Studies course dozens of times before, and discussed them in many previous courses, often with graduate students or faculty colleagues. Yet every single time I discuss them with Tufts undergraduates, I gain new insights from you. You bring searching questions, fresh perspectives, hard challenges, new connections, and a passion for applying the material to actually improving the world. That makes teaching you, Tufts undergraduates, the most rewarding professional experience of my life. So I thank you for that, and I urge you to keep thinking hard about the tough questions while you keep working hard to improve the world. But today, or at least this morning, is not about working hard, it's about celebration. So please join me in celebrating you, the class of 2021. We shall now begin the presentation of by department. We will begin the presentation of candidates for their degrees. So we recognize the graduates for the first degree of Arts and Sciences. When I call the individual's name, please come down to the stage, stand in front of the flowers, take your time doing that, move your tassel at that point, be looking at those cameras, because that's where the people are watching you who you care about. Take your time to express your feelings at that moment, and then proceed that way. And of course, when you hear people's names, you're going to want to clap, and you can do that, but the best time to applaud would be when they're actually down here looking up at the camera. So we'll ask you to especially applaud at that moment. So, members of the Board of Trustees, I have the honor to present to you these candidates on behalf of the faculty of the School of Arts and Sciences, and I ask that the respective degrees now be conferred. Here's my list. Ready? Anna S. Acker. Andrew J. Anderton. Camille Marie St. Bernard. James Bohm. Lillian E. Bolin. Olivia A. Brandon. Michael J. Chiradana. Madison Shea Cochran. Isabel Creed. Lauren Dokhaus. Emma C. Delavolpe. Jacob A. Dreyer. Emma C. Dwerzinski. Reese M. Empey. Carolina R. Espinal. And Jerusalem Jacob Estefanos. At this point, I'm being replaced by Alan Salmont.
Peter Levine is irreplaceable. Quinlan P. Fay. Bennett E. Fleming Wood. Jamie A. Guerra. Liza O. Harris. Alexandra Haver. James Himberger. Nikhil Kasem. Kyle D. Catlin. Rachel A. King. Daniel J. McMahon, Jr. Mary Angela Morales.
Giovanna R. LaChapelle. Perfect. Kathleen M. Lanzilla. Michael C. Mecha. Noah E. Michaud. Here we go. Sarah B. Minster. Alessandra G. Moreno. Michael A. Mugetto. Kate Mulvihill. Michael Pedrini. Noah G. Richter. And Jacob T. Rubel. At this point, I'm going to share these duties with Alan Salamont.
Thank you, Peter. Griffin H. Saul. Ryan M. Schaefer. Gabrielle H. Shiner. Kai Y. Smith. Tice M. Sweeney. Benjamin M. Van Lockhuizen. Jack L. Wasel. Andrew Westridge. Aaron J. Wall. Leah B. Johannes. Meredith Sherman. And before Professor Schulkrat reads the remote name, I just want to thank my colleagues for inviting me to participate in this morning's ceremony. Professor Debbie Schulkrat, Dean Jim Glazer. It's good to see Pearl Robinson. I took courses with Seymour Simshus. I also took courses with Jim Elliott. I've been here that long. And my colleague and Professor Peter Levine. What Peter didn't say is how significant his role has been in developing the field of civic studies. He has had as much to do with the development of that field, both nationally and internationally, as anyone. And let me thank all of you for giving me this opportunity. I feel a special kinship with your class since we are all graduating, and I am, I guess, graduating with you. But I intend to stay connected both to Tisch College and to Tufts University, and I hope you all will do the same. It's been a pretty good run for me, these 55 years of connection, and I hope I have at least some more time to add to that. Thank you very much.
We would now like to recognize the candidates for degrees who are learning remotely or unable to attend today's ceremony in person, but are watching the proceedings remotely. We will now read their names, and students have been invited to upload videos of themselves so that their images can be part of the ceremony proceedings. So I'd like to recognize right now, Luke Nicholas Alaco. Jeffrey Wolf. And before we conclude today, let me put in one more congratulations and a request that you stay in touch when you leave Tufts. One of our absolute favorite things as professors is to hear from former students and connect them with our current students. We will miss you, and congratulations. As the recessional music begins, we'd like to ask students to recess first, starting from the last row and working to the front of the auditorium. Faculty members will follow after the students. Please continue outside and remember to stay socially distanced even after you exit the building. And congratulations again to you all.
T-U-F-T-S, T-U-F-T-S, hurrah, hurrah, for the dear old brown and steady and true, rush along, brown and blue, raise the mighty score to stay, fearless and down the field and never yield, brown and blue for hey, hammer them hard, boys, and break through their guard, that is old Tuftonia's way, and the glorious Savannah begin.